Hey there, everyone. We're just going to take one more minute here. It's 12:04, going live in just about 30 seconds. We'll talk about this more to come. Okay, folks. Hey, welcome to 12:05 live. I'm Kieran from Point A Coaching. Took a little bit of time off from content there to get in some high quality family time. Even got married, and now I'm back at it, still talking about overwhelm, still talking about how we as high performers can not only navigate through those periods of overwhelm in our life, but also how we can get dividends from it. So I will stay on this topic as long as overwhelm exists in our high performance worlds. Hey, I want to talk about, or maybe start off with a little bit of review. I had a really popular post talking about our supervisory role of our own minds, and that being very crucial for us to start calming all the chatter and calming all the thoughts that buzz about in our minds. And I want to answer some questions, or actually mainly one question that many folks have come to me with as a result of that information I shared. But first, a little bit of quick review. In my last 12:05 live, I talked about this diagram. And this is a little bit different than the one I used, but pretty close as well. How we've been trained to accept that we have a body, right? We have a brain, super powerful organ, which controls and organizes a lot of what's going on in the body. And then we've even been taught about our mind being this overarching entity, which controls both. So it has that role of directing our body and our brain and all those different things to achieve the things we want to achieve in our worlds and our lives. And then I made the point that, hey, what's wrong with this diagram? Well, what's wrong is in this diagram, something we've been trained to accept again, there's nobody watching the mind. There's nobody watching the mind. And I reinforce the importance that we need to assume a supervisory role. We need to be watching our mind. I might have even quoted Eckhart Tolle talking about watching the thinker, understanding the role that we are in fact in charge of all of this, including the mind, not just the body and not just the brain. So we've got this integrated piece here. We're in charge of it all. The mind and all this experience that it brings us. Hey, we have these feelings, we have these emotions, but we're accepting, hey, I'm not just my feelings or my emotions. We have all these thoughts, sometimes all these crazy, nutty thoughts that are buzzing about in our minds, but we're not just our thoughts. It's time to realize that we're just in charge. And when we realize that we're just in charge of all these things, we're starting to be aware and then finally accept our supervisory role of our own minds. And once we're there, we can then position ourselves for high potential plays in whatever aspect of life we're after: work, career, family, relationships, our relationships with ourselves even, all spring from us accepting that responsibility of our supervisory role of our own minds. Okay, check out the last 12:05 live if you have questions about that. I'll leave the detail for what's up here on YouTube. So next up, folks have said, hey, Kieran, great. I am willing to accept a supervisory role of my own mind. Now what? I still have all these thoughts buzzing about my head, kind of like all those bees I showed on that lead and I did a few weeks back. What do we do now? What do I do if I'm willing to accept this role? But how do I control all the stuff that my mind's creating for me? How would I even just be a referee and blow the whistle on all the crazy thoughts that are running around the field of my mind? Well, very much goes to centering. And centering is a process, it is a habit, it's a technique that great leaders in all walks of life employ. Athletes employ this, professional speakers, actors, actresses, all folks that need to perform will often engage in centering. And I'm not going to talk too much about centering today. There's so much information out there. It's absolutely very powerful. It's something that should be part of your energetic hygiene in terms of keeping yourself on an even keel and keeping yourself as productive and powerful and highest potential as often as possible. I want to talk about something a little bit different, something that's available and frankly very applicable to our lives as high performers. But let's talk about what centering, or what I'll cover today, really pivots on. Very much pivots on science of breath, or even just breath awareness. Now, I have this little thing I'm conscious about. I don't want to come off as being too woo-woo, so I did bring something here from Scientific American, January 15th, 2019. Proper breathing brings better health. And just a few excerpts. These techniques influence both physiological factors by stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system, and psychological factors by diverting attention from thoughts. Sounds pretty good, right? This is something that is very much a part of a high performance, healthy lifestyle. Science of breath, or breath awareness. A couple more things to think about here. And just again, coming from Scientific American. In fact, every relaxation, calming, or meditation technique relies on breathing, which may be the lowest common denominator in all the approaches to calming the body and mind. Research into basic physiology and into the effects of applying breath control methods lends credence to the value of monitoring and regulating our inhalations and exhalations. So there you have it, in black and white, very scientific. And of course, we know some of the things that might seem a little bit, a few steps off from science in terms of the importance of breathing and centering. Okay, so centering is great and something I practice every day. It's part of my practice in coaching. I center with my clients very, very frequently. It's a great way to get calm and get clarity. But let's talk about availability, right? Whether we're just too busy, or frankly, whether we're in the middle of a sales call or something heated with our spouse or one of our kids, for example, it's not super practical to just bliss out or run off to the mountains, as I did in my lead-in video, and just center up that way. It's not that available to us. It's not really something that we can do on the spot. Very hard for anyone to just bust out the salt lamp that I have here and then just take 5 minutes to center up and then get back at it. Just real life doesn't quite work that way, and that's okay. That's the way things are. So in the absence of having the availability to really get centered, what can we do as high performers? Right? What do we do in the heat of the moment, for example, to get ourselves back on track? Or what do we do when we find ourselves overwhelmed with all these crazy thoughts in our minds, to get a little bit of center, get a little bit of clarity, get grounded, and then get productive, right? Well, I want to talk about, again, science of breath. We're going to talk about the philtrum. And you might ask, what in the world is the philtrum? Well, the answer is right under your nose. It's this little space between your upper lip and your nose. And long story short, when we bring our attention to the philtrum, we can immediately get ourselves to a place where we're just a bit more centered, a bit more focused. Our minds are calm. And from that place, we can be far more effective. We have all seen someone do this. Shh, right? That's a universal symbol for silence, please, right? It's also a universal point of awareness when we want to silence our minds. And I know that sounds a little woo-woo, but research it. Mythology references the philtrum in this place. A lot of different teachings talk about the philtrum as being a place where we find silence. Okay, it's very much a place where we can do that anywhere, anytime, with anyone. In fact, I'm doing it right now, and you can't even tell. I'm live on YouTube here. So, wow, what are you talking about, Kieran? Long story short, I'm not saying it's easy, but it is really this simple. When we bring our breath awareness right to the philtrum, when we give ourselves just a moment to experience a tactile sensation of our inhalation and our exhalation right here at the philtrum, our mind tends to focus in on the matter at hand, or what we want to be present for. And I'm going to leave it at that. I've promised to keep these short, but I'll encourage you to try this technique Next time you're in a hot and heavy situation at home, or the next time you're in a sales presentation, or maybe even in a meeting that you're struggling to pay attention to, but you really, really know you should. Bring your breath awareness to your philtrum and see what happens. So I'll leave it at that. Again, I'm Coach Kieran DiOrio, Point A Coaching and Consulting. Look me up at pointacoachingconsulting.com or give me a call, 724-331-9263. You high performers that want your happiness to catch up with all that business success, give me a call and we'll look forward to speaking with you next time.